One, and the ball drops.
What is up, everybody? Hey, I hope everyone's having a happy new year 2021. It's game time. The biggest thing about 2021 is I say, let's grow each year. So let's make each year bigger and better. And 2020 was obviously a very interesting year for everybody. And it was something that we all got to experience together. But I know we all are shining lights. And so we get the option to shine even on the darkest times. And what I want to talk about today is my number 5 principle. And the number 5 principle, the fifth principle I have, is extreme responsibility. When we can take responsibility on our journey, it makes life easier for us and easier for everyone who comes in contact with us. And the reason I lay that down as the fifth principle is just like a house, you have to build from the bottom up. And I think of the responsibility principle as the roof. You know, you need to have a roof on the house, but a roof by itself will do nothing. You know, that's not much of a house. And so that's why I want you to go through each step before you go into this responsibility step. Because as powerful as it can be a very dangerous step too, if you just take that in by itself. And so, what is it to take responsibility? So, responsibility ultimately comes down to asking yourself the right questions. And the right questions are, what do I have control of? What do I not have control of? And can I tell the difference of both? Because sometimes we have control of things that we don't realize we have control of. And sometimes we don't have control of things and we think we have control of them. And so it's really laying that foundation and figuring out, well, how do I know that piece? And one of my mentors actually mentioned knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing the steps that you need to take. Knowledge is knowing the process. But wisdom is knowing the order of those steps. Because we can have all the steps all day long. But if we don't know the order that go into creating the steps to make the outcome, doesn't really do that much. And so ultimately, I say, when we're looking to take responsibility, know that there's 4 phases of learning. And those 4 phases come down to, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. That's the first one. And then the second one is going to be, I know that I don't know it. I'm incompetent to it, and at least I know that I am. And the third one is, okay, I know it now. I figured it out and I've practiced the steps, but I have to think about it consistently. And the fourth is, I know it, and I know it so well, I don't even have to think about it anymore. It's just a part of who I am. And knowing that you can create that in your reality, knowing that that is a possibility, and then asking yourself the question, what do you want in your life? You know, for 2021, the question is going to come down to, what is it that you want? I'll never forget, as I've gone through my journey, a lot of people don't get to where they want to go. And to me, I want to be a part of that change. I want more people getting to where they need to go. And I want them getting there at the rate that they need to get there. Because I've also learned you can give a person success too quickly. I'm not going to get that into that today, but I'm going to talk specifically on, okay, Cliff, so now what do I do? What steps do I take? And so what I will say is, when we can ask those questions and answer them honestly and effectively, now it's about being resourceful. What resources do you have? And the truth is, we tend to have a lot more resources than we realize. I'll give a perfect example with resolutions coming up. A lot of people are probably looking to lose some weight. And a lot of people screw up on this one consistently. The people that I've worked with do not screw up on this one. There's a reason for that. There's a system and a process that comes together for people to get to where they need to go. And when they understand that system and that process, the journey doesn't have to be unnecessarily difficult. It's not to say that it won't be a challenge, because it will be, but it's more of a challenge to try and do the same thing over and over again and consistently fail at it. I say usually it takes 9 months to a year to really get yourself foundationed in a new process and a new system. But it's better to take 9 months to a year than it is to take 10 years doing the same bad mistakes every year. And I've seen that happen to people. And so, what I want to say is ask yourself, where do you need help? And now, how do you go about getting that help? Because too often we look at, I'll give an example with money. We look at money as a problem, as I just don't have enough of it. And the second your mind goes to, I don't have this thing, it stops being creative. And instead of doing that, let's say, how can I make this happen? The question is, how can I make this a reality? Maybe you don't have the money to pay for a trainer, for instance, and you know a trainer will help you with accountability. So, what do you do from there? There's an opportunity to step back and ask yourself the question, okay, now what do I do? One is you can talk to me. You can ask me the question. And what I would say is make your environment work for you as much as possible. I actually just recently did a live on this. And when we can make our environment work for us instead of against us, it gives us a fighting chance. Too often we look at willpower being the thing that gets us through. And although willpower is very important, it's a strong skill set to have. It's not the one that I would put all the chips on the table for, not in the beginning at least. Willpower comes with practice. Just like anything, willpower is a muscle. But let's not practice that muscle until we're ready to practice it. And so the first thing you want to do when it comes to getting yourself in that position is make your environment work for you instead of against you. Go around the right people who are going to help you in your process. Read the right books that are going to help you in your process. And avoid, with all costs, certain places when you're going through your process. My personal place that I avoided when I was getting ready to fight in the UFC was bars. There was nothing for me in a bar. What do I want to do? Watch my friends drink? It just didn't make sense for me to do. So that's what I avoided. And what I did go to was I made sure I went to the gym consistently and often because I knew that's what I needed to do to sharpen those skill sets. And I know sometimes we pull the rug back and we wish there was some hack that we could use to get us to where we needed to go. And there are hacks to make the process easier, but it really does come down to you wanting it enough and you finding enough reasons to want it enough. I often talk about the difference between desire and habits. And although having habits is super important, obviously, you become what you become because of your habits. But then there's that desire piece that's important too. And when our desire can go up, the habit doesn't necessarily have to be there, but the desire can be so high that we will almost force ourselves into creating the habit, force ourselves into putting ourselves in the position that we need to put ourselves into. And so when it comes to understanding responsibility and putting it in and not pointing the finger, what I will say is this. The biggest thing you can be responsible for is the decision that you make, and the outcome's going to be the outcome. You can't ever know what the outcome's going to be for sure. You're going to have winning times and you're going to have learning times. You're going to have both. But as long as you can take responsibility of saying, I'm going to step into my cage, whatever your cage is, I'm going to step into my cage, and wherever the chips fall, I know either I'm going to learn something or I'm going to win through my process. And the more we do that, the more likely we are to take that action that we need to take. And knowing that, yeah, this is my journey. This is my process. This is what I'm going through. And I'm willing to look within and learn the lessons that I need to learn to become the person I need to become to get the things I want to get in my life, instead of pointing the finger at other people. It's always going to come to get together and you being willing to put it in. And I want to end with this. So I'm going to give you a cycle to go through. This is specifically in personal development and understanding of self. So there's circumstance. There's always going to be a circumstance, good, bad, indifferent. And of course, we want to play circumstances in our favor instead of against us. But they don't always happen that way. And then there's the thought behind the circumstance. How are we going to take that circumstance in? And then there's the feeling behind the thought. We have the thought, and then we have a feeling behind that. And then there's an action behind the feeling. And after the action comes, there's a result. And so we're coming through our process, and there's these 5 things. And so when we look at the circumstance, the thing that sometimes we can do our best to control, but it's uncontrollable, the one thing we do have control of is the thought. The thought behind the circumstance is saying, am I going to learn something? Am I going to understand something different that I didn't before? Or am I going to complain and moan about the circumstance that I'm in? And you get the option to do either. There's just consequences to both options. I've never seen complaining about a circumstance necessarily help a person move forward. Sometimes it can, if they're angry about something and they want to change it, but there's still the logic behind that changing of it. Because if you're angry and you're fueled by anger will get you in trouble. But using anger as an energy and know that it's a process and flowing through your anger, meaning use it to funnel into something that you can actually use that's constructive instead of destructive. It's a fine line, and it's a small difference. Small difference. As I speak about it, let me give you an example. If you're angry with your spouse, for instance, you get the option to yell and scream and be upset and be as angry as you want to be, knowing that won't do anything. Or you can flow through it. And flowing through it means you're feeling it, you're aware of it, you know that it's there. But yelling at that person probably won't help the situation any. It's probably just going to make it worse. And so what you do is, if you can effectively communicate through that process, and not let your anger consume you, that's flowing through it. That's understanding that it's there and being able to use it in the way that it needs to be used, constructively instead of destructively. So remember, there is greatness in you, and it is always in you, and it will always be in you. But it's up to you to be able to look within, take responsibility of the life that you're in, of the situation that you're in, of the environment that you're in. Control what you can. Don't try and control what you can't. And have the wisdom to know the difference between the two. Thank you.
Rock solid, man. What a lesson. Thank you, Cliff.
Yeah, thank you.
I got so many notes here. When I kind of love to go back to these. I don't know. The 4 I don't knows, and
Mm-hmm.
what you have control of and what you don't have control of. It brought up so much. Being responsible for the decisions you make, and coming down to these 5 things, right? These circumstance, thought behind the circumstance. That's the one thing you can control. You said the thought behind the circumstance.
Okay, buddy. Yes, you can have 2.
On those 5 things, as you said, circumstance, thought behind the circumstance, feeling, action, and results, right? Those
Mm-hmm.
5 things. Out of those things, you can control. You went back to saying you can control the thought. If you
Yeah.
control the thought, does the feeling change?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So if you like when you're looking through that process and saying, okay, how am I going to think about this thing? How can I use this as an advantage instead of a handicap?
Mhm.
When your mind goes through that process, everything about that process changes. Like I'll give a perfect example. Um, if an individual goes into a subway and he hears a guy with his son and his son's freaking out and acting up, this guy's son, and you're the individual who's in the subway and you're just getting irritated by this guy's son just going nuts, saying, what is wrong with this guy and his kid? And you go over and you say, can you please calm your kid down? And the guy looks at you and he says, I'm so sorry. My son is acting out because his mother just passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't know I I don't know how to help him through this, and I'm doing the best that I can. So your thought changed even though it was a perspective thing. But if you would have came in with empathy before you even talked to them and know, I don't know what's going on exactly. And I can have a discussion with this person. No one was in the wrong in any of it. The guy wasn't in the wrong for being frustrated and saying, why won't this guy's kid shut up? The kid wasn't in the wrong for being a kid and his mother just passing away. The man wasn't in the wrong for doing the best that he could under the circumstance and the situation that was placed in front of him. But you get to choose how you're going to perceive that. You get to choose how you're going to think through that. And each thought has its own consequence. But you'll feel through your thought.
I was enjoying my family last night, New Year's Eve. I had my kids on the couch and the dogs, and I was laying in my wife's lap. We're watching this movie called The Secret. It was a movie based off of the movie The Secret, and
Mm-hmm.
it was such a wonderful show, wonderful movie. My kids throughout the whole thing, it's just like I feel like I'm talking to my dad. Like the guy's telling your story,
Yeah.
and because it's the language, the language that we've been programmed to, to speak to ourselves and to speak to others. The first thoughts that come out,
Mm-hmm.
do we run with them? Do we run with our first thoughts?
Yeah.
Or how often do you let that first thought go? And then you also said, this is pretty profound. Um, you make your environment work for you, but inside of those four things that I don't know what I don't know. I know that I don't know. I know now, and then it's part of me, part of who I am. It's just
Yeah.
it's become I practiced it so much. I know what I want to experience so much that it's become an innate part of my nature. It's innate. It's who I am. And at the same time, we have the opportunity to change that at any time. But life's not static, right?
Mhm.
We are this is an evolution. We are growing, we are learning, we are advancing, we are making these incredible leaps and bounds. I This is why, and you talked about the environment, and this is why I love to spend time with you. This is
Yeah.
why
Thank you.
I learn and I grow. It's not just, hey, I'm paying attention to you and I'm watching you and your Facebook and I'm just, hey, that guy's doing a great job. No, we're playing together. We're in a
Mhm.
sandbox and we're building castles.
Yeah.
We're building kings. We're building queens. We're shaping the world in a way that allows people to play with us in a very safe environment that's fun. Like, this
Mhm.
isn't. I love what you do for me, friend, and as a coach,
Thank you.
because you see me, and this is. Pay attention to this because this is you. You see me the way I want to be seen. You listen to who it is I want to be. Look, I know I don't know. I know I come across sometimes in my own head. I come across stupid. I know it. I
Mhm.
think sometimes those thoughts. But look, I surround myself with people like you, people like Steve, people like Dusty, people, incredible beings of light that, that are going to love me for who I am because I'm worthy of that. And each and every one of you is. We all are.
Yeah.
So if you get the right environment, man, there's nothing you can't crush. In a good
Yeah.
way, I mean, in
Yeah.
a good way. I love the polarity that you offer, Cliff, with the extreme. There's really nobody else I know in my circle of influence that has had the extreme in the ring like that. That's
Mhm.
just a different. How has that made you a better person and a better coach? That that ring. I know we're getting off topic, but we're
Yeah.
here now. We're just hanging. We can cut and
Yeah.
we're creating. This is life. We get to experience it together. So how has that UFC fighting made you this better coach
So
and still heart centered? So that's the thing that really trips my trigger about you, Cliff,
yeah.
is you can crush them, and yet you
Uh-huh.
got this big giant heart, dude. I almost hesitate to lean on that heart side because of the you are so damn tough.
Yeah. um well, thank you. I appreciate you and honor you for saying those kind words. And this is weird for some people, even as I write my copy, right? And copy is something that gets people to take action. And so people look at the UFC fighter and they say, wow, that guy, like, what lesson did he learn to get into that cage? And the craziest thing is that lesson came when I was 5.
Mm.
And not many people understand that. They say a 5-year-old, like, what does a 5-year-old understand? A 5-year-old, at least me as a 5-year-old, I understood what sheer terror felt like, feeling like I couldn't control anything. Bless you, baby boy. Knowing knowing I was going to die. You know, I was at a funeral and I saw my grandfather get buried and it terrified me. Like it paralyzed me. And I was going through the motions, but I didn't have anyone to talk to. You know, you can't talk to other 5-year-olds about that because they don't understand. And your parents, my parents at least, they did the best that they could, but they don't understand the 5-year-old's world. And so it was just me in freak out mode and trying to figure out freak out mode. And I got strong, like really strong. And I got really happy. And I just started really enjoying the fuck out of the journey and saying, I can control what I can control. That's all I got. And then it just grew from there. And it grew and it grew and it grew and it continued to grow. And so no one's journey is a bad journey. It's just a process that they go through. I've seen people well in their mid 30s, 40s, and 50s, and they go, man, I threw most of my life away.
Hmm.
And go, no, you just learned the lessons that you needed to learn because you can only control what you can control. That's all you got.
Well, it's so funny because I like to look back on my life and
Mhm.
dude, I'm living my life. I
Yeah,
have I have not stopped living my life, even in the tragedies, even in the extreme. It's like I never stopped living.
yeah,
And I ask you sometimes, hey man, you say keep punching, keep punching, and oftentimes well, I don't want to use that, you know, but dude, you got to get up, you got to have that momentum first thing in the morning, change that first thought, change that first. It starts then, and it doesn't end, and you just got to keep punching.
yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah,
you
absolutely.
keep fighting for that thought that you want to feel, the experience you want to feel. And as I go back to that movie that I was experiencing with my kids, how do you want to feel?
Mhm.
Imagine, having that vision of what it is you want to experience and cultivating those things and just bringing it to life.
Yeah,
Powerful, powerful message. Your power of 6, principle number 5, extreme responsibility. We got next week, you're coming up. We're going to go over principle number 6, the greatness within.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I'll look forward to spending time with you and Steve and listening and learning as you go. And um, thanks for talking story. Thanks for sharing everything that you got. You never stop, man. I keep looking to you.
yes,
We're just having fun because we're going to cut and edit and then use the video for another tool, right? So
yeah,
we can take, and this is the power of creation, right? This is we're co-creating. So we start with one thing and we end up with God knows what. Can you
yeah,
imagine if you lean into it with the feeling, with your heart, you're coming from the deepest place in your heart. You're
mhm.
alive and you're
Absolutely,
living that.
absolutely.
That's why I
And
watch
I
Clifford.
wanted,
That's why I pay attention to you.
yeah, I wanted to answer. One second, let me figure out what's going on with my son. What are you screaming about, son? Not right now. Finish number blocks, okay? Yes. Not right now. 2 more episodes of number blocks. Okay? I love you. So, um, answering back what puts a person in the cage. I've been stepping in my cage since I was 5.
That's what you said.
Yeah, everyone's stepping in their cage. Like everyone has a cage that they have to step in. And I'm always looking for bigger and better cages to step into. So me going from the UFC and walking away from it, because this is my responsibility piece. I had the option. I had the option to continue to grow as a fighter because I was growing as a fighter, but the desire wasn't there to do it. The desire was there to be safe for my son, who I was just yelling downstairs to. It was to take care of him. And I didn't feel I could take care of him properly and be the fighter that I needed to be. Because as a fighter, you have to go in there with no intention of thinking about getting hurt or the next day. You're just in that moment, in that present moment completely. He took me away from that, and not in a bad way, in a very good way. He took me away from that, and it took me into, okay, I have different present moments that I have to be in.
Mm.
Instead of taking the possibility of getting injured or maimed, I had to change it. And so I pivoted into entrepreneurship. And again, it's a process, just like anything else. I'm putting in the reps of being an entrepreneur, and it's not always easy, and it never always is just easy. The process is the process. Life is a journey and a process, and we get to choose where we put the reps in. And right now, this is where I'm going to put the reps in, and I'm having a lot of fun. I got to meet people like yourself as I've gone through this process. I never really networked with anyone when I was a professional fighter. I actually focused. It was funny because I was personal training on the side, and I didn't want too many clients because I knew it would take away from my fighting. So I kept a limited amount of clients as I went through the process. And now as an entrepreneur, things are changing up and switching up. And now I'm like, okay, now I'm looking and learning how to get new clients because I am in a different space.
Yeah, it's a completely different world. I mean, I have multiple businesses, multiple
Mm-hmm.
income streams.
Yeah.
And they're in areas of expertise that I understand well. So I have a good understanding of the things that I'm passionate about that generate revenue. And there's multiple ways of doing that. Everything's changing.
Mm-hmm.
The ideology about going to work for somebody and having them cut you a paycheck and you serve your 50 years, and that's dead and gone, right? I mean, everybody's half the battle is when we think about it. If we think about it like this, Clifford, half the battle is the thoughts that we have,
Mm-hmm.
right, are predominantly geared and wired to what I'm going to eat,
Yeah.
how I'm going to eat, what is it I got to, I got to go to work, got to feed,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the program. And
Mm-hmm.
until you rewrite the program because that's what you're expecting, you're always going to get what you expect.
Yeah.
You're going to get what you expect. This is
Yeah.
it, and I hate to say this. They talk about 100% true responsibility. You're going to get that.
Mm-hmm.
I show up like a piece of poop. And I expect to have my wiped up on the rug. But that's not how I'm going to come out and play. It's not how I want to play with my friends. I want to treat my friends the way I want to be treated. I want to lead by my example. I want to do these, put the first things first. And I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah. Like, and that even brings up, I don't know where I got the skill to listen to people. It is a talent that I have, and it's a talent that, see, a talent by itself doesn't do much. It's almost like taking someone who's capable, genetically capable to be a good sprinter. If they don't practice that sprinting, they just never get good at it. Like, they'll be better than most, but they're not going to be Olympic level sprinter. Like, you have to put it to the test. Yes, son. One more episode. Um, but as a listener, not only did I listen, I consistently practiced at getting better at it. So it was already a gift that I had beforehand. And it was a gift that I consistently practiced on, like no matter what.
Hmm.
So I don't know what to say with that. I just say we all have gifts and talents and skill sets. I know that for sure. And I know a lot of people don't always feel listened to. And the truth is, it's not anyone's fault per se. It's just go to the people who you know who can help you through what you need help with. Like I'll give an example. If people go to their family and they're not really the greatest listeners, sometimes that's because you're not a good listener. And so that person would need to go to someone who knows how to listen to explain to them how to listen better, if that makes any sense. Ultimately, making it better for everybody.
So we talk about controlling the environment. Surround yourself with people, make your environment work for you.
Yeah,
So next week, number 6, greatness within. You're going to talk about that principle on the power of 6. So today was principle number 5, extreme responsibility. And looking forward to next week, number 6, the greatness within. And that wraps up the power of 6. And we'll just be talking story about.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think this is going to be fun. What a wonderful journey. Thank you for spending it, Cliff. Thank you for spending time with me, for honoring. It's the greatest gift that you can give another human being is your time.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you as always. And to everybody else, have a happy, fantastic new year. 2021 is just a new year with new possibilities, new options, and new resources to create.
Aloha.